Greetings. This is the first edition, first actually issue of the Creative Thought magazine, and I'm actually doing a digital / audio and visual, or if you're hearing it on on a podcast, it'll be visual. It'll be audio. Oops. Yeah. Hey, since this is live, yeah, it's live. It's all the way live. But this particular magazine, I've been familiar with it for a number of years, and the Centers for Spiritual Living actually initiated this when it was previously two organizations for what's called religious science. And so this is from December of 1954. The magazine was actually published for 60 years every day and concluded in 2014. And I like the magazine so much in the iteration that I experienced it probably around 1990 or so, and got a number of the physical copies. It's only in digital form now. And so I've been meaning to do this actually for a while. And so this is the first, like I said, the first issue, so to speak. So at the time it was called Religious Science, Daily Word for Effective Living. It was 25 cents way back in December 1954. Big bucks. So here we go. Your daily pocket guide. And like I mentioned, it's now called, or it eventually was called Creative Thought. It might have been Creative Thought for Daily Living, but anyway, so this is from 1954. Your daily pocket guide. This new magazine is an additional channel for truth. It replaces none and enhances all. It is streamlined, compact, and direct. It will fill the need of busy people who desire a pocket full of spiritual ideas to make easy their day. The action of God, and this, I will interject some of my own thoughts, but whenever I use the word God, I like to think of it as geometry of divinity. So, geometry of divinity. Anyway, the action of God as geometry of divinity, that's my own addition there that I found out from a teaching I was involved in. The action of God takes place through these pages, and all who read them will be permanently improved. Truth reveals itself to the ready mind and the open heart. God, the one mind, is both the writer and the reader. Divine ideas are its only activity. And who's who in this issue? And I won't, this is just, since this is a first edition. Anyway, who's who in this issue? Dr. Raymond Charles Barker, who was president of the International Association of Religious Science, minister, First Church of Religious Science, and this is back in 1954, like I mentioned. Dr. Lora B. Holman, minister, Church of Religious Science, Glendale, California. Dr. Paul Martin Brunet, minister, Second Church of Religious Science of New York City. Dr. Robert H. Bitzer, president, INTA. I'm not even sure what that means. International New Thought Alliance, I think. Anyway, he was minister of Church of Religious Science in Hollywood, California. This is volume 1, number 1, December 54. What you believe happens. No one has ever solved a problem by worrying about it. A repetition of negatives cannot create a positive. Yet, watch a worried person, and you will see him enmeshed in useless ideas that will have to be discarded before the solution appears. The past, with its memory patterns, is the millstone that hangs around the necks of most people. Jesus negated the past, affirmed the present in positive terms, and declared the future to be good. His way of thinking has improved the world. It can improve you. It is easy to think of the past because it requires no new thinking. The ideas have already been alive once. But to think ahead creatively requires your stepping out of accepted ideas. You have to make new friends in the realm of mind. New ideas conceived guarantee new conditions to be perceived. Your immediate future is your present thinking made visible. You can only become what you now believe you are. Right thinking today about yourself is your only guarantee of right experience tomorrow. Affirm that you are a spiritual person receptive to God's ideas, and let life bring to pass the good you need and seek. It will do just that. And that was from Raymond Charles Barker. And the next section is, as a man thinketh, but you can think about it as a woman thinketh, as a person thinketh. We want to be politically correct and all that stuff. Get the pronouns happening. You know what I'm saying? But it does say, as a man thinketh. And so I'll probably, read it like that. Actually, the rest of it doesn't even go into any gender thing. So, as a person thinketh. Ideas are grouped around a central idea, which determines our trend of thought, and which in turn determines our experience. If we desire a new experience, we must conceive a new central idea, because everything that happens in this universe is born of some desire in the heart of God or man. God has placed himself, I'll say itself, it says himself, but I'm saying itself. God has placed itself within us as an oak tree is within an acorn. The recognition of this is the influx of the wisdom of God in the mind of man, the mind of a person. Genius is an ever-flowing fountain of creative achievement emanating from the higher mind and revealing all knowledge. This understanding all people can possess. We can prove this creative principle through the following steps. And these are actually in religious science terminology of treatment. There's 5 steps. 1, recognition of the infinite power. 2, self-identification with it. 3, impregnation of consciousness by our desire through imagination, thought, and feeling. 4, acceptance that it is now an accomplished fact, because the acorn and the oak are one and inseparable. And 5, release. Let go. As night follows day, effect follows cause. And that is from Lora B. Holman. And here's the daily creative thought. Wednesday, December 1st, 1954. But today is January 1st of 2025, and I do plan to do these every day, probably in a more streamlined version. And I get this, it looks like there's a little shadow. That's not my 5 o'clock shadow. Anyways, it is what it is. I'll get the light done differently, probably. Well, we'll see. It'll anyway. So the first one is called God's Business is Good. And here's a quote from Proverbs 22:29. Seest thou, and this is King James Version, so it will say man, or I don't know, I may transpose it to person. We'll see. We'll see what I do. Oh, you'll hear what I do. Anyway, God's business is good. Seest thou a person diligent in their business? And that's actually a question. I didn't say it as a question. Seest thou a person diligent in their business? He or she shall stand before kings and or queens. He or she shall not stand before mean people. Okay, that's going to be a trip trying to do that ongoingly. But I didn't read this in advance, so I'm doing it live, and you got to bear with my apparent, I'm not going to call them mistakes. They're just how I'm doing it. So this is how I'm doing it. Anyway, so here's I'm going to call these the daily meditations, so to speak. It's usually about 3 or 4 paragraphs, maybe about 4 paragraphs. And sometimes I may do them once. Sometimes I may do them multiple times, depending on how my consciousness says that I want to do it. So bear with me. You know what I'm saying? God knows no competition, and neither do I. Oh, and I'm going to start that over. These are said, or I will be speaking them as they're written, and I may, if it says he as God or something like that, I may change that. But they're written in the first person, so listen to these as if they're coming from your own consciousness or your own inner knowingness. And because my belief is that we're all one anyway. And so even though I'm saying it, you can still accept it as it's you saying it while you're listening. And so God knows no competition, and neither do I. God's loving law of infinite abundance applies to all. Scarcity and depletion are no part of God's law for me or anyone. In truth, I am completely exempt from all appearances of want and woe. The mind of the eternal rules, regulates, and governs this day from the standpoint of boundless profusion. The constant affluence that has supplied the universe for ages past is supplying me now with every good thing. Jealousy, ignorance, or envy can never narrow or divert my attention. I am centered and secure in infinite good. I have no rival, competitor, or adversary. I will not waste precious energy fuming about another's progress. Instead, I will consciously cooperate with the law by blessing each one I am tempted to envy. In whatever capacity I find myself, I will know that I am about God's business, and God's business is good. Employer or employee, customer or clerk, there is no limitation, no frustration, no lack of opportunity for the man, the woman who works with God. And that is by Paul Martin Brunet. It may be pronounced Brunet, but I'm assuming it's more like the Frenchish. So I'm actually going to just read one thing that it says. It actually capitalizes this part. And I'm going to say this a couple of times as an affirmation. I am about God's business, and God's business is good. I am about God's business, and God's business is good. I am about God's business, and God's business is good. So that is the first from December 1st, 1954. And I will be refining the process because the way that a lot of these are written, they have a lot of what I call denials, and there's nothing wrong with denials. I personally like to normally affirm the infiniteness of God, the infinite divine presence within me. And so, since I wanted to get this done today, starting this new year off, and just get this thing going, because I've been meaning to do this probably at least a couple of years now, and this is the year that it's starting. So first day, if I'm not doing it in any one day, I'm probably off my game. But I plan to do this every day because they did it every day for 60 years. I mean, come on. They can do that, and they publish the bad boys. I can read the thing. So it gives me something to look forward to for 60 years, okay? And this is the first one. And I will definitely be including my own personality in the whole thing, because that's what I do. And I didn't mention this before, but this is on my channel, my Facebook channel that I'm doing this live on, my Facebook channel of Said Number One, which is an artist name that I have given myself, originally having to do with singing and songwriting. But I do have the moniker, or my other alter ego is Mystic Singing Plumber Comedian, to acknowledge those four aspects of my being. So this will be on some of my channels, and we'll see how it pans out. And thank you for listening. I don't know if anybody's on here live, because I'm looking at this little dot as a camera thing on my phone. I'm looking down now. Nobody's on here. So that's all good too. It's all good. And so I should be posting this on my Facebook regular channel, which is as Cedric Long, as well as my YouTube channel of Mystic Singing Plumber Comedian, and my Facebook channel of Mystic Singing Plumber Comedian. I would have put this on my Mystic Singing Plumber Comedian Facebook channel, but I don't have enough viewers to do any lives. So once I get enough viewers to do live messages or live videos, I will be doing them on my YouTube, Mystic Singing Plumber Comedian. And more than likely, once I get at least the required number, it may be lower now, but it used to be 1,000 subscribers. And so once I get my 1,000 subscribers, or whatever the minimum is, I will be doing them live on my YouTube channel. And that will probably be the main one that I do. And I have a couple of other channels, and you will be hearing about those when the time is right. As a matter of fact, since I'm doing this right now, I think I'll do a little treatment. I mentioned the 5 steps. I actually do mine a little bit differently than the 5 steps that I mentioned to you. And that's because I was involved in a teaching which one of the primary acknowledgments of how spirit expresses itself and is known as is in or reflected in Exodus 3:14 through 17, I believe, and this is ascribed to when God was talking to Moses at the burning bush, and Moses asked God, what is your name? Who shall I say sent me? And God said, I am that I am, hath sent me. And I've been privy to some other specific teachings having to do with I am, such that I actually pray a little bit different than most people that I've heard. The matter of fact, I'll just go into some of this. I was involved with a teaching called Teachings of the Ascended Masters, and the primary person who was the guru at the time, Elizabeth Clare Prophet, would speak her word, and amazing how she would invoke the spirit. And there was some controversy about her, for sure. I was involved with the teaching for a number of years, and I actually lived at what was known as a teaching center in San Francisco, California. And I was actually I led most of the services, as most of the regular services, kind of like ongoing services, where actually it was Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. That was my job, was to lead these services. And the services consisted of, they're called decree services. And a decree is like a king will make a decree. And the decree is like, this is just the way it is. It's like an order. It's like, this is it. And so I actually led the decree services on those days. And that was actually my job. I didn't realize that until after I lived there. I was there for about 2 years. And that's the only thing they assigned to me, was lead those decrees. I didn't realize it until after. It was like, man, oh, this is pretty cool. I think, because I do get comments about my voice. And so I guess they're like, oh, you got a good voice, so we want you to lead this decree service. So that's what I did. So anyway, about how I usually pray, I use I am as part of my beingness too. And so if you hear me say that in a certain way, then that's where I'm coming from. And so I actually, one of the ways that I actually do like to do my own personal prayer is to read the meditation, and that little section that I call meditation, that's Wednesday, December 1st of 1954, the about 4 paragraphs, like I mentioned. I like to do them about when I'm really in the flow of it. I usually do it actually 7 times. But I'm wanting to get this session done, so I'm gonna give a little invocation, which is kind of like the same as a prayer, but so it's I'll say invocation. So even though, so it's kind of like a treatment, but I call it invocation. So anyway, let me just allow myself to be still for a minute and just give this to you. So, oh, and then also one of the other things that I do, because I do like to say something in the name of the Christ. And I figured this is a good time to just say how I view Christ. And I view and look at or accept Christ as that part of myself, that part of beingness, that is that universal aspect of us. And so I usually say, in the name of the Christ, in the name I am that I am, to acknowledge those 2 aspects of my being that is one with the infinite. So that's where I'm coming from when I do that. So, and I may say I am or Christ interspersed. So in the name of the Christ, in the name I am that I am, I, as this individualized focal point of God consciousness, known as Cedric Long, aka said number 1, mystic singing plumber comedian, I speak my word. I speak my word with power, authority, love, with a divine knowingness of who I am as Christ, as God in action, in embodiment. And I am right here and right now on this January 1st, 2025, calling forth the light of the infinite divine presence to bless this entire planet Earth, bless my life, bless the lives of all people upon this planet with divine love, divine energy, and that from this day forward, there's only the perfect divine unfolding of the divine presence manifest right here, right now, and always. And so I am grateful for this word that I'm speaking right here and right now, knowing that it is done in perfect divine order, and I am so grateful for it. Thank you, Father, Mother, God. Thank you, infinite divine presence. And so it is. Amen. Ashe. Peace out. Said number one, mystic, singing, plumber, comedian.